I'm using this dun cap, that mannequin head. That's what this one looks like out of the pack. You'll need some needle and thread. I use 6. And you need some scissors right there. You can use a little one if you have that. Just use scissors, okay? I'm about to sew the closure down. This is the closure I'm using. This is Peruvian Deep Wave. I'm trying to position the closure so when I'm sewing the hair, it won't be all over the place. And I'm gonna be using the pins to hold the closure down. Now, when you're sewing your closure, make sure that you're not doing this fast. Your closure is pretty much the key to your wig. Your closure is everything, honestly. So you want to make sure you take your time and sew this down really good. If not, it will be bumpy and you just won't like it. So you don't want to be walking out there with a bump on your head. So make sure that you take your time with your closure. And one more thing, when you're sewing your closure down, make sure that you sewed through the closure and through the cap. Do not sew this on the mannequin itself. It won't come off when you're done. Make sure you sew through the closure and through the cap. That's how you do this. Be very careful. I'm cutting the thread now. That's what it looks like once you're done with your closure. I'm gonna flip the cap inside out and sew some hair around the perimeter because it helps with your edges when the wind is blowing. You know, when the wind is all up in your face and pulling your wig back, you don't want that edges showing. This right here, it helps with that. It really does help with that. I'm gonna just basically sew it all around until I get to the other side of the closure. Then I'll cut the hair and then cut the thread and then tie it. Then I'm gonna flip the cap back. I'm gonna flip the cap over and then just continue to make the wig. Um yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing for this part right here. I'm getting ready to start sewing the hair now. I don't have a specific way of sewing. I just try not to sew the tracks on the elastic. When you do sew the tracks on the elastic, it will make the cap shrink and the cap will be smaller and it won't fit on your head. So try not to sew it on the elastic. Um, I do the flip over method where when I get to like a part, I'll flip it over and then sew it. I don't cut my tracks because it makes the hair sheds a lot. So I avoid cutting the tracks at all. I just flip it over and keep going. The trick is when you do the flip over method, you have to like really sew down that little part that you flip over, because if you don't, then it'll be bumpy and it'll be knotted up and you don't want that. So when you do flip it over, make sure you sew that little part down. And take your time when you're doing this. You don't need to rush this. This is not something that you would do in 30 minutes or 1 hour. This is like a process. So you have to take your time when you're sewing your hair. Do not rush it. Take your time. hair too long, it will get tangled. Okay, this is the part where I'm about to cut the extra fabric that's under the lace part. Like when you part the hair in the lace, that little part right there, so you won't be able to see that extra fabric. You have to cut it out. I'm cutting it out. You have to be careful, be slow and steady when you're doing this. You do not want to cut your finger, and you do not want to cut the part that you already sewed. You would just mess up the whole wig. So just take your time, slow and steady, and cut it. After I'm done cutting the extra part off, I'm going to also cut the extra lace that's in the front. I'm going to cut that part out too.